I didn't think we were going to make a second or a third video on this old Diamondback Century, but here we are, we're making a fourth. So as Christopher Walken would say, I got a fever, and the only prescription, more weight reduction. So in the last video, we got this bike down to, I think, 19.8 pounds. That first video I made on this bike actually did really well. So I pulled $100 out of that revenue, and I'm going to use that as my budget. So I want to see, for $100, what kind of weight reduction can we do to this bike? Can we get it down below 19.5 pounds? I don't know if it's doable. We're going to try. So I want to do that, and I want to do it without replacing any of the major components. I want to see what we can get out of it with the least effort, maybe even stuff we can do for free. So if you're interested in seeing what we can do to this bike and what kind of weight reduction we can get for $100, let's get started. I think we can do this in kind of a tiered approach. So the first tier, I want to see what we can do for free. What we can do to the bike without spending any money. The second, I want to see what we can do for free, but using the really expensive tools I own. And then the third, we'll actually replace some components. So with each tier, it's going to get a little more expensive. I want to track how much money we spent versus how much we saved. So we'll come up with kind of a dollars per gram. Figure out how much this nothing really costs. So let's start first with things we can do that are free, that'll make an immediate impact. The best way to remove weight from a bike, the easiest and the cheapest, is simply just to remove stuff you don't need. So we're in the fall now, and in the fall time during the winter, I don't ride with 2 bottles. So this bottle cage here is just dead weight. So I'm going to remove the bottle cage and its bolts, and that will give us an instant savings of whatever the bottle cage and the bolts weigh. I'm going to pull them off, we'll see what they weigh, and then we'll know how much we save. Let's see what this bottle cage weighs. So the cage was 40 grams, and when we add the bolts, it gets us up to 46. So look at that, we've already saved 46 grams. There's a couple other things on the bike that we don't need. Let's go pull those off, see what they weigh. This bike has rear rack mounts, but I'm not running a rear rack. So these bolts here are also just dead weight. I think we saw before that these two together will weigh about 6 grams. So let's pull them off, let's get rid of them, and that'll be another 6 grams I'm not hauling around. And I'm going to run a tally. I don't know if I'm going to put it in the upper right hand corner or we'll just talk about it at the end. But I'll keep track of how much weight we saved on this bike as we go. The bolt that holds the stem cap in place, the one that does the preload, this thing is about twice too long and it weighs 7 grams. So I'm going to use a hacksaw and just cut it down to where it's not so long. Should be able to save us a few grams. The way I cut down a bolt like this is I just use a hacksaw. I thread the bolt into a nut and I clamp that nut in the vise. When the vise is tightened down, it squishes that just a little bit and it holds it firmly in place. The edge of the nut also makes a good surface for the blade to ride against, so I get a relatively clean, relatively square cut. I cut down the preload bolt. It's now the right length. It looks like it weighs 5 grams, so we cut 2 grams right off the end of it. That was 2 grams we got for free. The expander plug, it feels heavier than it should, so it weighs in at 49 grams. There is a lot of extra material here that really isn't doing anything. So I think I can put this in my mill. We can remove some of this excess material and maybe bring the weight of this down a bit. It won't cost us anything except we'll have to use some expensive tools. So these pieces of aluminum here that are knurled that grab the inside of the steerer, they really only contact these cones that push them outward right on the ends. But they've got material the whole length through. So I think I'm going to pull these out and mill out some of that excess material. These metal springs, I also think I can replace those with just rubber O-rings and save a little bit of weight there too. So I'm going to take this apart, and then we'll take each one of these knurled pieces, put it in the mill, and we'll take some material off. My milling machine is currently set up for resurfacing some exhaust manifolds, and I don't want to mess with that setup, so we're going to do this in the drill press. So I've got a 1/4 inch end mill chucked up in the drill press. I've put that knurled piece in the vise here, and what I'm going to do is just cut a groove right in the center between those two spring channels. And what we'll do is we'll just take out the material, the width of this end mill, right in the center. So I finished the expansion plug. I got it milled out on all 3 sides, just like you saw. And I put it back together, but instead of using the springs, I just used these lightweight rubber O-rings. These are not heavy, so I don't know if that saved me any actual weight, but we'll see. So now the expansion plug weighs 45 grams. And then if we add the cut down preload bolt, we get up to 50. So these two together now weigh 50 grams. I'll have to look back at the footage. I don't remember what this weighed before, but I'll take a look and put it on the screen. We'll figure out what we saved. So to make the wheels lighter, I've got 2 ideas. The first is I'm going to replace the butyl tubes with some TPU tubes. These are typically quite a bit lighter. And then I'm going to replace the original aluminum and steel skewers with some new titanium carbon skewers. So I'll show you the skewers in a minute, but let's get this tube out of here, see what it weighs, compare it to the TPU tube, and then get the TPU tube put in. If you've got a workshop like mine, actually if you don't have a workshop like mine but you do a lot of work on tires, one of these grab bars bolted to the side of your bench is just perfect for working on wheels. It'll hold the wheel in place when you do things like fit tubes. It's also great when you're doing cassette work because you can lean it on the edge of the grab bar. So there's my tip in this video, something to add to your shop or your bench that's really cheap. That I use this thing a ton. It's always got something in it. So anyway, I got to get this tube off of here. So to keep this from uncoiling, I'm going to wrap a zip tie around it, but to be fair, let's weigh the zip tie. So it's too light to register on my scale. Even 2 zip ties don't register, so I don't think we need to worry about the weight of the zip tie. So I'm going to bind this together just so it doesn't uncoil. And now this is the back tube. Let's see what it weighed. 159 grams. And then the front tube, weighs in at, oh, it's quite a bit lighter, 123 grams. So what was that? 159 plus the front, 123, gets me 282 grams for the original butyl tubes versus 72 grams for the new TPU tubes. That's pretty good savings right there. These are the original skewers that I just pulled off. Together, those weigh 118 grams. Let's take the new skewers I got. Let's see what those weigh. We'll add that to the list. These are the new lighter skewers I'm using. These are made out of titanium, aluminum, and carbon fiber. That makes them considerably lighter than the original skewers. So these together, the pair weighs in at 41 grams. Earlier in the video, when we removed the other bottle cage, when we weighed it, I think it weighed 46 grams for the cage and the steel bolts. I think we can do a little bit better than that. So I'm going to replace this cage with a carbon cage, and I'm going to replace the steel bolts with these low profile titanium bolts. So let's go back over to the scale once again. We'll weigh that new bottle cage and these bolts. We'll see how much weight we saved by swapping this out. The new carbon cage and titanium bolts weigh in at 18 grams. So we saved, what is that? Another 28 grams. My channel just hit 30,000 subscribers, and somebody asked me how much money I make. They thought maybe it was the kind of thing you can make a living on. Money on YouTube isn't made by number of subscribers, so it doesn't really matter how many subscribers you have. It's based on watch time. And my watch time isn't great because my videos are all really long. So I generally make about 5 cents per view. My monthly income from YouTube is somewhere between $300 and $700 each month, depending on how well the video does. So if you're looking to get into YouTube and make money, the money comes from watch time and engagement, not from subscriber count. And even me, I've been doing this for 5 years, I'm at 30,000. I'm not making enough money to really amount to anything other than to pay taxes on. So there's the new carbon bottle cage. I think it looks really nice. I'm really excited about this. I have no feeling for how much weight we're going to save by doing this. So I'm really interested to see what we come out with. It's a nice bottle cage. The chainring bolts with this crank, they're original to the 105. These are stainless steel. I've got a set of aluminum ones from an Ultegra crank that I converted. So I'm going to swap these out. I don't think that's going to save a lot, but let's see what we get. The original stainless steel chainring bolts weigh 13 grams for all four. The new, these are aluminum, they're from that Ultegra crank. These weigh in at 5, so there's another 8 grams saved. Not significant, but you know, every gram helps. So where do we end up from a dollars per gram saved point of view? So the biggest bang for the buck was removing parts. Anything you can take off, it's free, it's easy to do, and it doesn't cost anything. Really big bang for the buck. The next two, believe it or not, were the TPU tubes at 15 cents per gram saved, and the quick release skewers, I think they were 29 cents per gram saved. Technically, the machining, the parts I machined to reduce weight were free, but given that I had to use some machines that you probably don't have, it took electricity and it took time. I'm going to say that those actually cost quite a bit on a dollar per gram basis. I didn't calculate that out, but I'm pushing them way down on the scale. The most expensive one was the chainring bolts. Those came out at about $1.25 per gram. So replacing hardware like titanium bolts, replacing the chain rings, that's a really expensive way to save just a very little bit of weight. So from an overall perspective, if you were going to do it, spend your time removing parts, anything you don't need, then tubes and quick release skewers. Those were really efficient ways to save actually quite a bit of weight. Most of the weight that came off the bike was in the tubes and the skewers. I put together this rig so that I could put the bike on the scale and let it hang and let it stabilize, and you guys could see it without me holding it up. So I'm going to put the bike on. It is ready to ride. Got the bottle cages, got the pedals, got bar tape. Let's see where it comes out. I'm going to let this hang and stabilize, and then I'll zoom you guys in so you can read the scale. So hopefully that is in focus and you guys can see it all right. So it reads 19.14 pounds. So we went from 19.82 pounds down to 19.14 pounds In kilograms, that is, the bike's spinning on me. All right, so that comes out at 8.67 kilograms. I'm really impressed. I am really impressed with that. You may have noticed that these two scales disagreed when it came to how much we saved. The postal scale, I think, is probably the more accurate of the two. With this one, we looked at the actual weight saved for each component and we calculated how much we saved in grams. With this one, we weighed the overall bike before and after. My guess would be the postal scale is more accurate, but since we are really just looking at a delta, so we're looking at a weight before and a weight after, the error that might be present in this, I guess we'll call it a fish scale, probably doesn't matter. So for the sake of the video, I'm going to say that for our money, we saved about 310 grams. So I'm going to calculate what I actually spent, what we saved, and I'll give you the final cost per gram saved for the overall project. I'm about $1,100 into this bike at this point, and that does include the purchase price for the bike. For $1,100, I've got a bike that I think looks really nice. It's in excellent condition, and now it weighs just a little bit over 19 pounds. I want to know what you guys think. Was it worth $75 to save 310 grams on this bike? Or do you think I wasted my time and my money? I'd also like to know if there is something I missed, some glaring way to reduce the weight of this bike, some efficient way where I could have done it for less money, or just something I completely missed, more bang for the buck. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I think it's going to be the last video on this bike, but no guarantees. Until next time, I'll see you later.